Hey everyone, welcome back to Techno with Sudeep. This is Sudeep Shetty. In today's video we are going to dive, one of the most important foundational elements in D365 finance and operation, that is product creation. With that note, let's get started. While talking about the product creation in F&O, just to give you a context here, right? If you think about any ERP, and if you open up any specific master account, there are always be a tons of it, be it item, be it customer, be it vendor, or you name it. So but explaining all each individual fields and its importance without any context doesn't make any sense. It can get overwhelming if I keep explaining all those fields and importance. But here's the thing, not everything needs to be filled in into getting started. In fact, there are just a few mandatory setup that is crucial for creating a working item. When I say working item, by using that item information, you can create any related document, be like purchase document, or the purchase invoice or whatnot. So my idea being in this session, I'm going to only cover the mandatory setup which you need to require to create the specific item. Then in the future episode, I'm going to explain with the business context, like why we need a product attributes, what's really the importance of that, what's the why we need a product dimensions and other related setup. I will be creating a separate videos for that. So now to get started with, as I said, even I said this related to the vendor, the first thing you always needs to do in the sense for the master creation, make sure the number series are set up properly. Now in this case, for the product thing, of course you need to go to the modules, and you're going to go to the product information management. And as I said, for each specific module there is always be a production information parameters management parameter setup page. You're going to open that. I will all come back on this. The most important thing is the number series. Now if you look at the number series, there is already a product number has been mapped with the number series. Of course, you could go back and you could change the details if you don't like the product number. That's the first thing. Once the number series has been set up, the next thing you're gonna check is the item group and the item model group. Now what is item group? Now item group is a place, this is the more for the financial perspective, that you're gonna map whenever there is a certain transaction happens with respect to creation of a product purchase order and posting the purchase order, right? How, what specific chart of account needs to be get hit. This is something we also done with respect to the vendors. If you could remember that in a vendor, we also set up vendor posting profile, where we said that whenever for this specific vendor, if any specific transactions gets posted, what are the behind chart of accounts needs to be get hit. And in the financial world, there's always be a debit and credit thing. So if you are crediting a vendor, we have to debit somewhere, right? In this case, when we buy any raw material or anything from that specific vendor, when we buy it, we need to pay to the vendor. That means it is a credit, a liability, right? So we are crediting a vendor, and our inventory goes up. That means are debiting an inventory account, that to say that I have bought an inventory, so that it's my inventory valuations gets increased. So that's the all about the why we need an item group. So item group is all about talking about mapping a chart of accounts against this specific item, whether this item is used in a sales order, whether this item is used in a purchase order, where these transactions needs to be get posted. To do that, you're gonna go to the cost management. So name itself talks about the costing part, right? So so cost management and inventory accounting policy setup, you could see the item groups. Now clicking the item group, now item groups could be created in a multiple way. Now if you could remember, while we creating a vendor, we created a vendor and we grouped the vendor. There's a vendor group and the vendor posting profile. First we created a vendor group by saying that my vendor could be classified as like a raw material vendor, a finished goods vendor, a packaging vendor, something like that, right? We could also group the item group like that if you believe that you have a different chart of accounts needs to be get maintained for each specific type of raw material. If believe that everything, I have only one chart of accounts related to the inventory valuations. If that's the case, it's a matter of creating a one item group for all the item. Now in this scenario, now I'm going to create a two item group, one for a finished goods, one for a raw material, so that you're gonna get an idea when we're gonna see it in the future episodes, that when you post certain transactions, how these item groups will behave, and what type of transactions gets posted. Now at this point of time, only thing you have to keep it in mind, that there is an item group is required to create an item, and item groups talks about mapping a chart of account for respective documents. Okay, so I'm going to create a finished goods, and I'll say save. Then the next one, I'm going to say that raw material. Now, if you save it, is automatically you could see that all these sales order accounts get the populated. Now, one which we are currently creating is a purchase order. So the thing which we need to map is the purchase order. Let's look, guys. There are so each specific account type has its meaning. I'm not going in deep into it right now because the objective of this episode is to create an item, and the only thing which you need to make sure that cost of purchase material received account needs to be filled in. So let's fill in this account. Let's drop down. Let me see what chart of account I have. Now account receivable, inventory, finish. So I have two chart of account which has been already been created. So I'm going to use inventory raw material, right? So I'm save. So I will fill it that, and the finished goods we're going to do it when the time arises for the sales order. Now let's come back. One is, so we made sure that number sequences is set up properly, and we made sure that item group is created. The next thing is the item model group. The next is item model group. For the item model group, you're going to go to the same place, cost management, and we're going to hit item model group. Now, what is item model group? The item model group controls how an item behaves in a inventory valuation, or be it ledger posting or stock management. It actually defines how inventory is updated, reserved, or financially posted. Now, to give you a certain business context here, right? Let's say you are running a manufacturing or distribution business. Every item might behave differently based on its nature. Some are kind of stocked product. Some may not be a stocked product. Some may need a tracking. Some may not need a tracking. So all these things can be managed in the item model group itself. Say for example, now inventory items like finished goods, it's make more sense that it's treated as a stocked product and post as financially tracking and the physical level, physical inventory tracking. So it's kind of helps calculating the value and the update general ledger. There could be other items like non-stock items, consumable like office supplies and other stuff, right? So it doesn't need any physical inventory tracking. Does it really need it? It's not really needed, right? And might be needed post in financial inventory, right? So these are all aspects which kind of helpful from the item model group. Without properly setting up the item model group, your financial posting, inventory valuation, and the stock behavior may not align with your business requirement. So it's the core setup that connects inventory operation with the finance and ensures smooth processing in purchasing, sales, and warehousing. right? So we're going to cover this more in detail, but at least for the creation of an item, it may not really require that many of you know explanation, but to just give an idea, this is the glimpse why we need a item model group. We're going to save that, and that's going to come back. The next important setup is the storage dimension. To go to the storage dimension, you can go in a multiple way. Of course, you have a possibility of searching it. If I search is storage dimension, it's gonna say that where this storage dimension group exists. It has existed in a multiple places. One is available in a cost management, other is available in a product information management. This is the one of a easy way. If you unable to find which module is certain things not exist, you could always search it from the search tab. Now if you go to the module group, and I used to go to the cost management, is an easy place, and you have a storage dimension group. Now, what is this storage dimension group? In short, storage dimension is the place where you're gonna possibly store all your inventories. Just to give you an idea, in the finance operation and the F&O, we have a site, warehouse, location, as again there are multiple things. We are not going to discuss all this stuff. We only discuss this some of the important stuff right now, and the other areas and the respective videos. We discuss on the respective videos. We're going to discuss that out. Yeah. So it has a site, warehouse, and the location concept. Now, what is site here? Now, the site is an intangible area where you're going to say that now looking as that you have a specific. The company has a warehouses in India, right? To say that site is an India, that's what it says. No, if you enable only site in the F&O, that means that you are storing a inventory at a India level, right? Inside in the India, you have a multiple, could be warehouse, one warehouse in Delhi, one warehouse in Mumbai, one warehouse in Chennai, one warehouse in Kolkata, Bengal, right? So in that case, that will be identified as a warehouse. Now, inside this Delhi warehouse, you could have a bin, racks, and everything that will call as a location. I hope you understand that India is an intangible area that is like identifying that whole India or the country as your a site location, right? Assuming that one warehouse, your warehouse is in India and the China, right? Then the site will be India and the China. Inside the India and the China, there could be a multiple places where your possible physical warehouse location exists, right? All those physical warehouse location will be called as warehouse, right? And inside the warehouse, like bin, shelf, rack, and everything will be called as location. So all these three possible way you could track your inventories. Now let's go back here. The site, as I already explained, is an intangible area. Warehouse is the physical warehouse location. Location means bin, racks, and other stuff is called as a location. Then there is something called inventory status and the license plate. Now this is all about how you're gonna track your raw materials. We're gonna discuss it in the respective other videos. Yeah. And the warehouse specific setup is for the advanced warehousing. Now in our case, we're gonna create as a GFL. This is a template. You could always create a template. We're gonna discuss that later, but this is a GFL warehouse. I say the GFL warehouse, and I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna store my inventory at site and the warehouse location. That's it. I'm going to enable only that detail, and I'm going to also other things is fine, right? So this to say that physical inventory needs to be stored here, yeah, and the financial inventory needs to be stored here. You could also enable this one, that when I enable this one, that I have to mention the site and the warehouses mandatory for my all my purchase receipt, or whenever the purchase receipt happens, I have to mention the site and the warehouse. So I'm going to click save on this. And the next other important aspects to make sure that we have to consider is the creating the tracking dimension. Now we are not in our initial requirement, we will not be using this tracking dimension, but to create any item, we have to assign the tracking dimension for sure. Now let's go to the tracking dimension. So what is tracking dimension? As we discussed, the tracking dimension is a more of like how you track your inventory. Now let me create a tracking dimension, one random tracking dimension called GFL food, and I'm going to track it for GFL food, and I'm going to save it. Now the important thing is that batch owner, serial number, and the owner. Just ignore all other stuff, right? So we are going to say that either I want to track this as a based on the batch, based on the serial, or the based on the owner. I'm not really discuss much in the detail, but just to give an high over, for example, when you're assuming that some items, there could be an item you're receiving printer, the printer will be always tracked via serial numbers, or could be you're purchasing a monitors or the computer. It's not that you have any other identification, it's morely identified as a serial number. In that case, you could enable serial number. There are some other items, you're going to track it based on the lots. Then there is a batch number will comes into the picture. Now the owner is like more of like a consignment owner, where you have your own inventory, but you are sending that inventory to your other vendor who will sell on behalf of you. But still there is inventory, but the space is not in your warehouse, right? It will be in the your vendor or the vendor warehouse. So that's called owner. We're going to discuss everything, but as to create an item, the tracking dimension group is very important. So I'm just going to create, I'm not activating any other stuff, I'm just make it a save. And with that note, we are pretty much completed all the basic things which needs to be there for creating an item, right? First, making sure that we have a number series pin set up. Then the item group is a matter of posting creating a kind of a posting profile for all the item, mapping your chart of account in the item group. Item model group is talks about your FIFO costing method, a FIFO, LIFO, or whatnot. Yeah. Then the tracking dimension code is whether how you want to track your inventory. With these four available information, now we are good to create a item. Now, to create an item, we can go to the product and information management tab, and there are a couple of things here to understand. One, there is all products in the product master. All product in the product master is something that as we know that 365 F&O is a multi-legal entity supported ERP, so that all the other companies, if there is any specific product you have created and it's been shared across all the companies, that you're gonna see it in the all product and the masters. From this product, you could release it to your own company, right? So click on the new, click product type item master, then the search, this is a food company, I'm gonna say that is a Fuji Apple, right? So I'm gonna create this product as product name of Fuji Apple. Yeah, and I'm going to click OK. This gets created. There are a couple of important fields, right? So we talked about is the dimension. So certain dimension needs to be mentioned here. You could go to the dimension. I'm going to say that what is your uh, storage dimension for this, right? The storage dimension we created was like GFL warehouse. Then we can map the tracking dimension which we created, even though we don't have to track this one, but as this is very mandatory field for us, so I'm going to track this one. And I guess that's it, enough information for to create it in a product master. Again, we are creating just in a product master, right? So this information are much sufficient. Now we're going to save this, then we're going to release this product to our GFL food company. So I'm going to say that it should be in a GFL food. Next, and we're gonna say finish. This should take a couple of seconds to finish it. it says is created, and you can come back and we can go back to the release product. Then you should be seeing that item. Now if we go to the here, a couple of important fields needs to be filled in. So we already put in the all other item, uh, the product search name. We're going to edit this one. The first thing is that we need an item model group. Yeah, it's about the costing method. Then we're gonna say this looks good. This should go to the inventory tab. Yeah, and here we're gonna tell what's my unit. So this is to say that how you want this product to get managed with respect to sale, with respect to purchase, or with respect to warehouse unit. So this is always be a lower level of capturing the unit of measure. For example, this is the Fiji foods, always comes in the boxes, right? Now these Fiji foods can be sold in a pieces also. So it's easy to manage in a lowest level rather than a highest level. If you put it in a box, then you have to break that box. You have to make a smaller boxes again, right? Now if you put it in a pieces, then you could say in the system, if you're selling it via boxes, you could say that, how you would want to, in a boxes, how many inventories, how many pieces of apples are there. Now in this our cases, for the initial one, we're going to tell, we're going to say the system that everything will be sold in a pieces. So inventory is being sold in a pieces. Yeah, and once that's been done, you could say that how the inventory is sales order to be sold. I'm gonna say that is pieces, and how the purchase has to be done is on the pieces. The posting, the one of the important thing is, like, we are going to put this as a posting groups. Now that's all the informations what we need to assign it for the item. Once we done that, we could save this information, and our item is created. Our first item is created. Now this item can be used in the rest of our document. And that's it. That's wrap our session on product creation in D365 F&O. We covered the most basic things needed for creating an item, and that can be possibly used for the purchase document. So in the next document, we're going to create our purchase order, and we're going to do the basic first, our receipt, and also we do some other basic stuff. With that note, thank you. See you on the next one.